I call the Honourable Ruth Dyson.
Thank you very much for that choice, Mr Chairman. I'm really pleased to be speaking in the committee stages of the Gambling Amendment Bill number 3, but I have to say that I'm also disappointed that this is not a bill that we can wholeheartedly support. We're going to put our vote in favour of it in the end, but we've got a major reservation about a key part that is in part 1, and I think that's disappointing. With public health issues such as gambling, and there are many others that this Parliament debates, I always think that it's good to have as broad a support as possible, and I think the Minister has been inclined to that view himself on occasion. So I'd like him to take the opportunity of the committee stage, because it's the only chance that he will have to tell us why he had such reluctance to move to an agreed different approach rather than the commission-based approach, which is what Labor is opposed to in this part. So this part is really the guts of the bill, if you like. It covers clauses 4 to 16. We've got 4 supplementary order papers on the table, I understand. One that Clayton Mitchell from New Zealand First, in amongst some rather disparaging comments that I'm sure he'll regret by the end of the evening, making in the House. One in the name of Clayton Mitchell, and not on the basis of his contribution tonight, but on the basis of the content of the SOP, will be voting against it. 2 in the Minister's name, both of which seem sensible amendments and will be supporting, and one which Denise Roach has recently tabled, which we will also be supporting. But I'd like the Minister to take a call and just give us a straightforward explanation of why, when every single submitter opposed the commission-based payment scheme, those submitters who did refer to it, but everyone agreed that we should look at a different model, which was less onerous, less time-consuming, was more efficient and effective, and either retained or enhanced the level of transparency that the current system did. If everyone agreed with the problems and said we will work together on the solutions, but we oppose the proposed solution in the bill, which is the withdrawal of the commission-based exemption. Currently you can't have a commission-based payment. This bill takes away that prohibition. It doesn't say that we are going to have one, but of course it leaves the door wide open to that happening. So I want the Minister to just explain why he was right and the rest of the world who were involved in this discussion were wrong. Everyone put their hand up and said, we will work together to find an alternative that meets the concerns that have been identified, because everybody agreed with the concerns. We want something that is transparent, that isn't time-consuming, that isn't onerous, that, that makes sense for everyone that's involved in the industry. But people did not want to move to this commission-based payment. So I want to understand what drove the Minister, in the face of that opposition, to continue to leave it in the bill. Or perhaps, ever hopeful I am that the Minister will use the common sense that he's renowned for, I am ever hopeful that he might say, well, I didn't even know that. And now the Minister might table a late SOP to just say, let's in regulation make this a payment system that meets the concerns of the submitters. So, Mr Chairman, as I said at the beginning, Labor would really have liked to have supported this bill 100%, because on issues that address public health concerns such as those that gambling causes, it is best to have a consistent approach, an approach that's supported by the majority of Parliament. But in this case, I'm not sure where the Greens are going on their final vote. I know that New Zealand First have got some different concerns than we have in that regard, but this issue is one that was certainly, I think, quite fundamental. It's been acknowledged as not the best method of payment since gambling legislation was introduced in New Zealand in 2003, and that's because it can drive incentive to increase gambling. It doesn't do it deliberately, it doesn't necessarily do it in every case, but it does have the potential, unlike any sort, others, Mr Chairman.
The Honourable Ruth Dice.
Good choice.
And a commission-based payment system does have the opportunity and the incentive, unlike all other types of payment, to incentivise increased gambling. And that seems to me to be the last thing that anyone in this Parliament would want. We'll have the debate about how much we regulate and how much we introduce harm reductions. You know, they're all legitimate debates. But I don't know of a single member of Parliament who would say incentivising increased gambling because of the payment system dictated in legislation. I don't know a single member of Parliament who would say what a good idea. And that's why I can't understand why we've still got it in this legislation, and I really want the Minister to explain it. Mr Chairman, I want to talk about one other concern that Labor has with this bill, and it's not what's in it, it's what's not in it. And that is that this was, we have a lot of gambling legislation, so it's certainly not the last opportunity. I hope the Minister's got another bill coming towards Parliament soon.
At least.
At least one. We might have a few in this term of Parliament. It is something that needs to be worked on an ongoing basis, not because anything's faulty in the legislation that's before us now, although it is, but that's not the reason we need to continually revise gambling legislation. It's because technology changes, people's habits change. We now have a situation in regard to online betting that none of us would have envisaged when the original legislation was introduced in 2003. The world is a different place, and if we want to maintain the contribution going to community organisations and the harm reduction protection of problem gamblers, then we need to continually revise the legislative framework. That's the other area in which this bill misses out. That this was an opportunity for some serious measures to be introduced in terms of gambling harm minimisation. And again, this was a very strong point of contribution from a large number of submitters. The submitters we talked to and heard from, Mr Chairman, were very moving. A number of them were people who told their life stories to the committees about the harm that they had caused themselves and their families because of their addiction to gambling. And that takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of incentive to want to do good, actually, to tell their stories in that way. People came to the committee because they said, this bill should have more about harm minimisation in it, and here's what happened to me because I wasn't protected against myself, basically. And so this is a missed opportunity. I think we do those courageous people who fronted up to the committee a disservice by not having a serious contribution to harm minimisation in this bill. Mr Chairman, I know that the committee stage isn't generally the time to be talking about a lot of what happened on the committee, but because the bill was introduced and considered so long ago, I had almost forgotten how much alteration the committee made. And I just want to commend all the members of the Government Administration Committee. If you flick through the track change bill that we have before us now, you'll see page after page after page of unanimously agreed alterations. And I think that was a result of serious work by all the committee members. We listened not just to the officials, but also to the submitters. And I think the officials worked really hard to answer our questions and to make sure that, despite our reservations about some parts of the bill, that we were truly satisfied with the level of advice we got. And that's, that's pretty well always the case, I guess, but not 100%. I think in this quite complex bill, short though it is, we should commend the officials for the work they've done. I'm sure they're looking forward to staying here till 10 o'clock as we debate this tonight. It's one of the few joys and opportunities that public servants have when they've worked on a bill, that they get to sit in Parliament till 10 o'clock alongside us. Mr Chairman, I haven't yet seen the Minister move in a way that indicates he is going to take a call, but I certainly would strenuously encourage him to do that. I think that this House deserves an explanation from the man holding the pen, and that's the Minister in the chair at the moment. Why did we leave that door open to commission-based payments when so many people said this could incentivise harm, and we have an opportunity to get an agreed better system.
Chair.